Nigeria is experiencing a humanitarian crisis. 7.1 million Nigerians are in desperate need of help. 1.8 million people are internally displaced. And despite government interventions, every year these figures keep rising. My guest on the program knows firsthand what a humanitarian crisis can do to a nation if unchecked, if words are not matched with actions, and has some solutions that may not sound popular to the typical Nigerian, but ultimately work. We'll get to that shortly. Our focus on the Federal Capital Territory looks at the issue of child statelessness and the issuance of birth certificates to internally displaced persons. And of course, as we do every week, we have our Abuja wrap. This is Dateline Abuja. Hello and welcome to Dateline Abuja. I am Kayla Megwa. Let's begin with a roundup of major stories making the news from Nigeria's seat of power.
President Muhammadu Buhari has vowed not to exit the government as a failure at the end of his second term in office in 2023. He made the declaration during a crucial closed-door meeting with service chiefs at the presidential villa. The National Security Advisor, General Babagana Mungunu, conveyed the president's message to State House correspondents at the end of the meeting. President Buhari has signed the Petroleum Industry Bill 2021 into law. This is according to a statement signed by presidential spokesperson Mr. Femi Adesina. According to the statement, President Buhari signed the bill into law while in quarantine after his arrival from the United Kingdom. Meanwhile, the president has approved a committee to immediately commence the implementation of the Petroleum Industry Act. The steering committee, which has 12 months duration for the assignment, is headed by the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Chief Displaced. President Buhari gave the approval while giving a remark on the act. He spoke during a meeting with the leadership of the National Assembly.
In the past 10 years, Nigeria has lost an estimated 50 billion United States dollars worth of investments due to uncertainty created by the non-passage of the PIB. I have approved an implementation framework commencing immediately to ensure the industry envisaged in the new law begins to take shape. The implementation process to be headed by the Honorable Minister of State, Petroleum Resources, is hereby tasked with the completion of the implementation of this Act within 12 months.
In the meantime, the Minister of State for Petroleum, Mr. Displaced, insists that the government has agreed with organized labor for the full deregulation of the downstream petroleum sector. Addressing journalists after the president assented to the bill, Mr. Silva insists that the pump price of petrol will remain at 162 naira until the full deregulation kicks off. He also inaugurated the 9-man steering committee. The Minister of State for Niger Delta Affairs, Senator Godswill Akpabio, has revealed that international oil companies operating within the Niger Delta are defaulting in their statutory remittance to the Niger Delta Development Commission to the tune of $4 billion. Senator Akpabio raised the alarm during the weekly ministerial briefing at the State House.
NDDC itself is also being owed over $4 billion by the international oil companies. Over $4 billion on remitted funds. The federal government is owing a little bit also of its own part that it should do to the NDDC. I believe that with this forensic audit, we will begin to offset some of those things, working closely with the Ministry of Finance in tranches.
The Federal Executive Council approves 21.1 billion naira for projects in the aviation and education ministries, as well as for some federal agencies. Addressing State House correspondents after the weekly Federal Executive Council meeting, the Minister of Aviation, Senator Hadi Sirika, says the Council approved 4 memoranda for his ministry, which amounted to 16.69 billion naira. Meanwhile, the Council also approved the contract for the construction of facilities, including hostels, for the Federal University of Petroleum Resources, Efrun, Delta State. The federal government has received the batch 2 of AstraZeneca vaccines comprising 699,760 doses donated by the British government. Speaking at the handing over ceremony, the executive director of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency says those who already took the first jab of AstraZeneca will be prioritized.
This vaccine will be deployed immediately to the states and will be administered as soon as the second dose to those who had earlier received only their first dose of the vaccine during the first phase of vaccination rollout. I therefore enjoin all those who have received AstraZeneca as first dose to visit the nearest vaccination site to receive the second dose to be assured of full protection.
The World Health Organization has adjudged Nigeria's first phase of COVID-19 vaccination and the entire national response as one of the best in the world. The chairman of the Presidential Steering Committee, Mr. Boss Mustafa, disclosed this at the flag-off of the second phase of the COVID-19 vaccination exercise.
As the second phase of vaccination commences today, I believe our governors and all those in leadership positions will intensify mobilization efforts and continue to facilitate the vaccination of eligible persons in the states and the local governments to ensure all allocated vaccines for the second phase are fully utilized.
The Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Tanko Mohammed, has administered the oath of office on the newly appointed Chief Judge of the Federal Capital Territory, Justice Yusuf Baba. Speaking at the ceremony held at the Supreme Court, the Chief Justice of the Federation, Justice Tanko Mohammed, urges the newly sworn-in judges to be impartial and rise above any primordial sentiment in the discharge of their duties.
Throughout your tenure as the head of the FCT judiciary and Qadis of the FCT Sharia Court of Appeal, you must endeavor to be impartial, fair to all, and apply justice and equity in all your undertakings. You are expected to conduct your affairs within the ambit of the law and the oath that has just been administered on you. Anything to the contrary will not place you on the right side of history. You must resolutely rise and operate above every primordial sentiment that might blight your tenures. Respect yourselves, respect the persons you work with, and stand always by the truth. If you do so, God is there to guide you, God is there to protect you, and I am sure Sakai will be the starting point of your journey.
Welcome back. A humanitarian crisis comes with so much baggage, so many ripple effects. Our focus in the nation's capital today is on one of those ripple effects of a humanitarian crisis: child statelessness. So many children are born in IDP camps across the country. It's mind-boggling. Over 17,000 born in IDP camps in Borno State alone since 2019. This time, the Nigerian government and the UN High Commission for Refugees are taking their advocacy to internally displaced people in the nation's capital. Please watch this. This internally displaced persons camp located in Durumi Area 1 is one of the informal IDP camps in the Federal Capital Territory, and it provides accommodation for over 2,700 people, most of whom are victims of conflict in northeast Nigeria. Majority of the children and adults here were not registered at birth, a situation which has prompted the United Nations High Commission on Refugees, in collaboration with the National Population Commission, to organize an accelerated birth registration exercise in the camp. 53-year-old Liatu Ayuba is a traditional birth attendant, and she's delivered at least 108 children in the camp through traditional methods, but they were not registered at birth.
I deliver a 185 children in this camp. I don't have any problem. Except if I saw the woman that I cannot deliver her, I will just send them to hospital. Or I by myself, I will take her to the hospital. But on those matter, all the children that I'm delivered from 2014 to 2021, no one died, no any woman died, or even shortage of blood. I dey talk for some people, for some government like Commission of Refugees. They tell me I should list the thing that I need to deliver a woman, at least tire, no feedback. But I thank God for some people that are helping me, some organizations that are helping me. They are giving me hand gloves, they are giving me cotton wool, they are giving me comfort wood. Sometimes they are even buy a Dettol, they are even buy jig, even bow, even towel, and the pampers for me to help me to giving to those women.
According to the United Nations International Children Emergency Fund, more than 50% of the births of children under 5 in Nigeria remain unregistered, accounting for 11% of unregistered children in West Africa.
Our target and our mandate is to register 100% of every child born. But we've not gotten there yet because we have our challenges, which are mostly religious, traditional, cultural, and all those sorts. And that's why the Commission has entered into a lot of collaboration. In most parts of Nigeria, a child does not have name at birth. We're actually supposed to capture that child as that child is being born, but they will have to go in some part of Nigeria. It's 8 days, some is 40 days, and you find out most of these parents, they don't come back. And let me tell you the plain truth: a greater percentage of the Nigerian population lives in rural areas. And in most of these rural areas, most of them are not easily accessible.
The government has, however, scaled up measures to register at least 80% of unregistered children by 2025, in line with the UNHCR target to end statelessness by 2024.
By year 2025, we are going to get 25 million children registered, and that will be just 80% of the unregistered children.
However, Durumi Camp parades hundreds of makeshift tents made of cellophane and tarpaulins. Residents at the camp also lack portable water and toilet facilities, which is why the residents engage in open defecation. There is no school in the camp, and there is no functional health facility. According to the Federal Capital Territory, there are about 1,200 children of school age in the camp. Their statelessness is worrisome.
Mothers give birth at home. They go to the home of a traditional birth attendant. They give birth there. But you don't have somebody from the National Population Commission to just give a birth certificate on the spot. So they take their child home. The child begins to grow. And I think it's a lack of knowledge. Maybe literacy is an issue there, why the parents don't understand why a birth certificate is so important. It is important. You know, everybody in Nigeria now should have a NIN, a national identification number. How are you going to get an NIN if you don't have a birth certificate? How are you going to go to school? How are you going to register your children in school if they don't have a birth certificate? You know, eventually they're going to grow up and they might want to leave Nigeria and travel abroad. How are they going to travel without a passport? To get a passport, you need a birth certificate to be able to get a passport. There's so many things that birth certificate gives you access to. What does the government need to do that could also reduce the risk of statelessness for children? They can pass domestication legislation for the 2 statelessness conventions that they have ratified. We're aiming to reduce statelessness of children, but they need to pass domestication legislation also for the 1961 convention. Once that is done, the road is paved towards establishing a statelessness status determination procedure so that even adults who don't have a birth certificate can be regularized and have their citizenship through a statelessness status determination procedure. Another thing that needs to be done is to pass in the domestication legislation a provision that children who would otherwise be stateless if not giving a birth certificate would then receive a birth certificate.
The initiative to register the children in the camp is coming when the world is marking 60 years of the 1961 Convention on Reduction of Statelessness. And many here are hoping that this exercise can give them some sense of belonging. This week, Nigeria joined the rest of the world to mark World Humanitarian Day with the theme Climate Change. The country is seeking local solutions to its humanitarian issues. The challenge is, Nigeria's most vulnerable face the impact of climate change and insurgency in addition to an existing infrastructure deficit. It is a terrible place to be. My guest on the program is Mr. Edward Kalon, the United Nations resident and humanitarian coordinator in Nigeria. Mr. Kalon, welcome to Dateline Abuja.
Thank you for having me.
Happy World Humanitarian Day.
Thank you very much, and also happy World Humanitarian Day because it's all of us.
I mean, it's a very important day, one that lets countries have the opportunity to look inward. And for most of the conversations around this year's World Humanitarian Day, we're looking at the most vulnerable in society, and the world theme really is climate change. But in Nigeria, I hear that the federal government is trying to create a nexus between resilience to climate change and the impact that insecurity is having on the lives of the most vulnerable in society. Could you talk to us a bit about the importance of this day to Nigeria in particular?
Yeah, the World Humanitarian Day is a day we celebrate every year on the 19th of August. It's a special day to us because it is a day we try to advocate for the survival, the well-being and dignity of people that have been affected by humanitarian crisis. At the same time, advocate for the safety, security and protection of international aid workers. For this, every year we have different themes that we try to showcase and also try to advocate around. This year, the theme is climate change, one in which we are calling on global attention to the impact of climate change, especially on vulnerable people. The climate change is becoming an emergency. It's an emergency we cannot afford to lose. It is wreaking havoc in the world as we speak today. We have developing trends that are quite a concern to all of us at this point in time. The scientists keep telling us, and they keep telling us that the temperatures are rising by 1 to 2%, 1 to 2 degrees centigrade. And they are even saying that this is far higher than the pre-industrial era of the 1850s to the 1900s. And we are heading to a catastrophic level of 3 to 5%, which is not good for humanity. I always say, Mama Planet, if Mama Planet cannot sustain us, how are we going to be able to live in this world and really enjoy it the way we want to do? So this is a day we try to compel world leaders on the need for smart climate action, on the need to win this race rather than losing it. It's a race we can win. One of the key contributing factors to the herders and farmers crisis is the encouraging desertification that is becoming a problem. Although the changes in demography is also contributing to it, but there is definitely a competition for resources as a result of the impact of climate change. And I have witnessed the severity of the impact of the herders and farmers crisis, which is not one of the things that one would like to see in these days of ours.
You know, Afghanistan is a typical example of how a humanitarian crisis, if allowed to continue, could turn into something that a lot of people would not be happy to see. What do you think Nigeria should take away from that experience? Because Afghanistan has been going through a humanitarian crisis for decades, and I think you have first-hand information and first-hand view of how that can affect a country. Talk to us about some of the lessons from that experience that we should take as Nigeria.
Afghanistan taught me international relations. As a West African boy, growing from a humble West African home, the first thing I came as a lesson to really understand was an adage from our people when they said, when two elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers. And I saw that. I saw that there. But one of the lessons after 10 years in the country and what we have seen happening today is that nobody is going to fight your wars. You have to fight your own wars. And put in a very simple way, you are your own self-keeper. Nobody is going to take care of you better than yourself.
Let's come back to Nigeria now. The figures from Nigeria for this humanitarian crisis. It is official, though, that Nigeria is facing a humanitarian crisis. Is it?
Yes, indeed. I mean, if you take the conflict in northeast Nigeria, where we have 8.7 million people that needs urgent humanitarian assistance. At the peak of that crisis in 2017, we had 2.2 million people that were displaced. But it's a very dynamic situation in northeast Nigeria. Currently, we are talking about 1.9 million people that are displaced in the 3 states of Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe states. But we also have 1.6 million people that have returned to relatively safe areas that have started rebuilding their lives, although it's an uphill task because of lack of basic services and opportunities. But that is also shedding light on some hope that with improvement in security, people can start going home and start rebuilding their lives, especially in safe areas. What is really worrisome now is what is happening in northwest and north central of the country. Based on a recent assessment we did in Northwest, an additional 1.4 million people have been displaced as a result of banditry and criminality that's ongoing in Northwest. And then in North Central, Benue and the other states in North Central, we're talking about well over 1 million people that have been displaced as a result of the herders and farmers problem. So what we are seeing is that the conflict clusters permeating the 6 geopolitical zones, and each of them are having severe impact on the well-being of people, especially vulnerable people that are struggling to make a living. These are the people that are bearing the brunt of the impact of this crisis. And the blunt end of it is women and children who are left to bear the burden. I mean, they live in crowded, displaced camps. Children are not able to go to school. Water and sanitation facilities are poor. And worst but not the least, they don't have enough food to eat. As we speak, we are talking about a serious food security situation in northeast Nigeria.
Do you think these intervention programs by the Nigerian government are sufficient to handle the situation on ground? And are they getting it right? I
mean, having done this job for decades in different parts of the world, it's always great to give credit where credit is due. And I'm one of the people to really accept the fact that irrespective of the issues and challenges that the country is facing, the government of Nigeria is indeed investing in trying to find a solution to the conflict. I mean, if you look at the investment of the government of Nigeria in the security sector, this huge amount of money, which we are not aware of in terms of numbers and that they are spending, but it's huge. One number I can give you for sure, which I'm certain about, that for the humanitarian community from 2017 to 2020, over $3.2 billion were mobilized to provide assistance to 5.5 million people on an annual basis. What did those resources go to do? They were there to prevent hunger. They gave water and sanitation for people caught in this unfortunate situation, provided emergency education to people, provided shelter for people who have been driven from their homes as a result of this insurgency, and also started supporting rebuilding of livelihoods in some areas. Could you imagine if $3.2 billion was used for development investment in northeast Nigeria? We'll be talking about something completely different at this point in time. These are the prices we are paying for conflicts. These are the prices of terrorism, which is not in anybody's interest. That is why I say the perpetrators of violence should face the brunt of the law in all what we do, because you are depriving humanity, you are depriving society, and you are also depriving yourself. And I always say the days are gone when you come and kill people and you want to rule them. Those days are gone. It's not going to happen.
Thank you so much for being with us on Date and Abuja, Mr. Kalon, and good luck with the work that you do.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure having me, and I hope we have been able to have quite a frank and open discussion, not too diplomatic.
Nigeria's plans to handle its humanitarian crisis look amazing, not just good, Amazing on paper, as it has for the past years. And truthfully, efforts at implementing these plans are on ground, but it must be sustained. As of May of 2021, Nigeria has the third highest number of internally displaced persons in Africa. By mid-2020, it counted 2.6 million internally displaced people. 7.1 million people in crisis is an alarming number of people to live endangered in any country. And you may feel this situation is far away from you, but the chickens always come home to roost. That's Dateline Abuja this week. Please let us know the happenings in your neighborhood using the social media handles showing right now on your screen. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Kayla Magwa. See you next time.